concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. It's very good to be with you here on a Monday evening. I did not stream yesterday. Some of you are asking what happened to the stream yesterday. I didn't stream yesterday because I was camping with my family. In case you're wondering what that looks like, hold on. Yep, we went off-grid camping. Off-grid camping means there's no plugins, there's no electricity connections, there's no Wi-Fi, and there sure as hell was no cell signal. It was just us and our tents. That's off-grid. That counts as off-grid, doesn't it? We were camping with a friend of the family who has a similar. Actually, I say they have a similar tent to ours. That actually is our old tent that we passed down. That we passed over to them. We camped together, and a shade structure we're working on for Burning Man. Out there's some of the kids playing cards by the light of the flashlights. Yeah, so that's what it looks like when I go camping. Camping by a river. Yeah, it was a good weekend. Get the kids out, spend some time away from the technology. How do you stay warm? Asks William Tam. How'd you stay warm? Well, an interesting question. Friday afternoon, it was actually pretty comfortable, and Saturday. It started to get cold, and then Saturday night it was like 26 degrees. Is this the American stream? It is. It's Monday night, so it's the American stream. So we'll do it in freedom units. 26 degrees. It was below freezing. We have a propane heater for the stove, or for the tent. Kept it. You know, I had a propane heater. I had some thermal underwear, and I had a sleeping bag. And I was all right, but I think I don't think I came out of it completely unscathed. So I'm definitely not at my mostest bestest today. I'm definitely not at my mostest bestest today. We do not have the dropped frame counter on screen. I forgot to add it back in, but we're going to hope that the internet cooperates. Yeah, so I think I have a cold. But having missed the stream yesterday and, I just was like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and stream. We're going to go ahead and stream, and we're going to see how it goes. I'm not going to bail on it. So, yeah. Aaron Ciotti is in the chat. He says 1 more hour to go. I'm not sure how Ciotti is texting and driving at the same time, but he is. Ciotti came out, hung with me today. We flew some quadcopters. Yeah. And he's still going to be streaming tonight, apparently. He's going to make it home in time to stream tonight, so that's commitment. Really nice seeing him and hanging with him. Actually, it brings me to an interesting question. That's going to be our first topic of the stream, and it's a personal one. And it's just going to be me and the 200 people watching at the exact moment. Oh, hey, Ciotti. I think I have a cold, Ciotti. Sorry about that. Yeah. After I got back from dinner, it was like, oh, yeah, no, I think I might have a cold. So Ciotti came up, and we did some motor testing. And I have long poo-pooed motor testing. You've heard me rant. I'm not going to go through the rant again. But you've heard me sort of rant about how motors basically are, motor testing and motor marketing is kind of overhyped. And if you're shopping for motors, you basically look at the specs of the motor, you look at the materials it's made of, and then you just buy something that fits your budget. No, Ciotti wasn't camping. He came up today. And that a lot of the claims that people make about motors, about throttle resolution and linearity and so on, are not borne out by bench testing. Let's put it that way. 661 FPV. I was camping Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then I came home. Today is Monday, and I was flying with Ciotti. There we go. Now you're caught up. Chris Rosser does bench testing, where he tests motors for various characteristics and talks about their responsiveness and their torque and their RPM and so forth, their efficiency. And these are all things you can measure. And my feeling is that motors largely, as long as you have motors of about the same size and about the same KV, all these ephemeral characteristics like linearity and low throttle, low throttle resolution, that they mostly are placebo. And I say that as someone who has in the past reviewed motors. Years ago, I reviewed the original 25 millimeter Imperial motor from FPV Cycle, and I said, I do think I feel like it has additional low throttle resolution as it claims to be. And along comes Chris Rosser and says that the bench test doesn't show that, And he shows responsiveness numbers and other numbers that show that the additional size of the 25 millimeter motor basically doesn't give it an advantage, that it's a bigger, heavier motor, and it doesn't have an advantage in terms of linearity. In fact, that most motors, the torque curve is the same. It's the same. There's no, well, I'm not going to say there isn't one, but there are a few motors that when you put them on a test stand and you do testing on them, show that they have additional, say, low throttle resolution or anything like that. So having said all that, I decided I was going to switch from the 25 millimeter Imperial motor. Chris Rosser's argument, based on his bench testing and his theory, is that unless you're using like a 5.5 or a 6-inch prop, that the additional size and torque of that motor is wasted. It's not necessary. It's not needed for the smaller props, and it's a larger motor. It doesn't have any advantage, more or less. I said, okay, well, that's good enough for me. I'm going back to a 2207. I'm going to save myself. I built these 3 identical quads. The difference between the 2207 and the FPV Cycle 25 millimeter is about 20 grams, if my memory is correct. It's about 4 grams per motor. And that's not a lot. 20 grams over the course of a quad. Why? I bet you I couldn't feel the difference if you gave me 2 quads, one of them with an extra 20 grams of dead weight on it and one of them without. But given the choice, if I can't tell the difference anyway, I'll take the lighter quad because I feel like there are differences there. And Bob Ruge reached out to me and he said, hey, I've got a new version of the 25 millimeter motor. It's got these special magnets. I'm not going to tell you details about this, what makes the motor special, because I'm not sure which of it is for public consumption and which isn't. I don't want to screw up, and it's not really important anyway. But it's the 25 millimeter motor with a few little tweaks. And I've got a quad with he's got another prototype motor that he doesn't want me to tell you what the details are, but it's around the same size as a 2207 or the 2506, the 25 millimeter motor. It's in that rough category. And he says, you want to test him for me? And I said, Bob, listen, I got to be honest with you. I have come to the conclusion that any claims about motor performance that cannot be demonstrated with a... Oh, sorry, Timbo Slice popping up a message there. Sorry, hold on a second. We'll get to you in a second, Timbo. Sorry about that, guys. Any claims about motor performance that cannot be borne out on a test stand, that don't have data to back them up, I don't buy. I'm not buying it. And as a result of that, Bob, I have gone back to a 2207. I had just bought 12 2207 motors to put on these 3 builds that I was going to do. And Bob Ruge said, well, let me send you these new motors. They're going to be, they're pretty interesting. I think you want to try them out. And that's what Ciati and I were doing today. I said, Bob, for you, I'll try them out. And we tried them out today. And I'm going to tell just the 300 people watching this right now, because I want to know I have a question at the end of this story, and I want to throw it out to you guys. Ciati and I did a blind test. Okay? Ciati and I did a blind test. He was the pilot, and then I was the pilot. We took turns. And when he was the pilot, he spent about a half hour where I would plug a quadcopter in, I would set it down, and he would fly it. And I would he would land, I would unplug it, and then I would either switch it for a different one or not. And I went through the motions. I would replace the battery each time. The battery was fresh off the charger each time. The only thing that changed was sometimes I put the battery back on the same quad, and sometimes I put it on one of the other quads, and I had him fly it. And all I asked him to do was tell me whether the quad that he was flying right now was the same or different than the last quad that he flew. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? I'll bet you think that you would ace that test. And Ciati went above and beyond, because my thinking was, before we sit down and do what most people would do, most people, if Bob Ruge from FPV Cycle sends you a new prototype motor, the very first thing you're going to do is put it on a quad and fly it and think to yourself, what do I think of this motor? That's what I did way back when I reviewed the FPV Cycle Imperials. And I was like, no. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a blind test, and we're going to see if we can pick this motor out from the other at anything better than chance. But Ciati went above and beyond. He started talking, and this is all going to come out in a video. He started talking about, this one feels like this. This one, I noticed this. He really, you'd think he would know better. Like, the point, you're the rube. You're the mark. So for him to, when I took my turn, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like, I guess I can't tell. But Ciati, man, he dove in. He committed. And guess what? I'm going to tell just the 300 or so people watching the live stream now. I don't want to spoil the video for everybody else, but for you guys who watch the live stream, I'm going to spoil it. Can you guess what his success ratio was? It was about 50-50. Shocker! It was about 50-50. Of course it was. And he was sitting there, and he was like, oh, no. This is the snappy one. No, I know. Oh, yeah, no, I recognize this one. And then he was like, oh, this one. Yeah, no, this is the heavy one, or whatever he was saying. He was so sure. And then I did the same thing. I couldn't tell. At least I anticipated that I wouldn't. By the way, for the record, Ciati, I asked him before we started. I said, do you think you'll be able to tell the difference? He was like, no, I don't think so. But he was game. He gave it his best shot. And I said the same thing. I tried to cheat by looking at the throttle position at which the quad hovered. They all hovered at the same throttle position. I don't know. And I flew them, and I tried to find little things about them that made them feel different, and I couldn't. And I got about 50-50. And then, long story long, I was like, well, that's the end of the video. It's not, I don't, but here's the thing. We didn't go on and review the motors to try to fly the motors and say, oh, well, this one feels smooth, and this one feels juicy, and this one feels sparkly, and this one feels dynamic, and this one feels dull, or any of that nonsense, because if at the end of the day, we're 50-50 at even noticing that the motor has changed, how are we going to have any credibility if we try to fly these and review them and make qualitative claims about their performance? We can't. So, here's what I want to ask you. This is not going to surprise you, right? You're not surprised to hear this. And frankly, this has been my position from the beginning. This data confirms my position that most of these subtle differences that people claim exist in motors, when you put them on the bench, a lot of the times it doesn't bear out. And when you fly them, a lot of times it doesn't bear out. And I think that the reason for that is that in real flight, there's too many variables. I'm not saying, like, for example, one of these motors was about 100 kV more than the other. That's a significant difference in RPM and a significant difference in thrust, or at least it ought to be. There should be flight conditions during which we would feel that. But how many volts of battery charge does it take to cancel out a difference of 100 kV? Right? Well, it should be, well, no, never mind. The math's not that simple. So there's all these little variables. We controlled as many of the variables as we could. The weights of the quads was, except for the motors, the weight of the quads was the same. They were identical quads, identical pid tune, identical rates, identical everything, identical up tilt. And yet, there were too many variables to definitively get a difference. Like if you give me one quadcopter and it's 2400 kV and one quadcopter and it's 1900 kV, I guarantee you I will pick the difference between them every time. Guarantee you. I would put money on that. That's a difference in kV that is so significant that it overwhelms any of the other characteristics that might be affecting the results. But you give me two quads with 100 kV difference in their motors, I'm going to struggle to tell the difference. And you give me one quad with a 2506 motor and one with a 2207, I'm going to struggle to tell the difference. And I know that. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm coming to the chat to ask. I don't think the right thing to do is to release the video and say, lol, guess what? You can't tell the difference. Because two reasons. I do think that there are differences in these motors. When you put them on the bench, there are differences. And I do think that someone would be able to tell the difference between them. Just not me. And the type of flying that I do. We talked about how when Limon, the Betaflight developer, did his test comparing 50 hertz and 250 hertz Express LRS, he and his partner, whose name I'm blanking on, were able to tell the difference 9 times out of 10 and 10 times out of 10, whereas me and Stingy were basically 50-50, no better than chance. And the difference was that they did it on a race course where you have a predictable, repeatable series of moves. And we did it in a sort of freestyle where we're just sort of doing whatever. That's the same thing that we did with this motor testing. Because number one, we're not racers who are capable of putting in, 1/10 of a second consistent laps, where a small difference in the motor would make a difference. And number two, we didn't want to fly balls to the wall, crash the quad, break it, and then have the test be over. So what the main reason for is not larger bearings, Mike Bergman. The 25 millimeter motors have 9 millimeter bearings, same as, I think they used to have 10 millimeter way back when. They don't anymore. So what's the right way to put this video out into the world is my question to the chat. Because I would be happy to put out a video that says, guess what? Just another reminder that placebo is real, and unless you're doing extremely rigorous testing, the differences between motors is, let's just say it's swallowed up by other environmental variables. And the number one way to test motors has to be on a bench stand. But I feel like I'm not sure if that feels like the lazy way out. And I don't know what the non-lazy way out is. I don't know. I don't know. Here's what I'll say. Anybody who tests a motor and doesn't do bench testing of things like thrust, efficiency, responsiveness, the kind of testing that Chris Rosser does, at the very least, the bench testing has to be the beginning of our understanding of a motor's performance. And I'm extremely skeptical of people who fly motors and say, oh, they have great low throttle response. Prove it. Prove with a tool, a test tool, that they have better whatever. And don't tell me, oh, when I fly it, it has this characteristic. Because here's the thing. If you fly a motor, when I was flying these motors, I noticed, oh, I punched the throttle and the quad jumped in a way I didn't expect. Aha! That must be because of the motors. This is the one that has the punchy motors that jump when I don't expect it. Well, it could just be a coincidence. I'm looking for things. And when I see anything, I assume that it must be the thing that I'm looking for. And then I go, oh, that's the motor. Maybe it isn't. Ryan Quellet says, test in a repeatable manner. Push yourself harder. So here, I thought to myself, if I was doing some kind of a repeating run, if I was flying a race, well, you'd end up with a racetrack. That's the problem, not a freestyle track. If I was doing the same moves, 20 packs in a row, and then you switched my motors and my props, I bet I might notice. I'd be like, what's up with my quad? It's different. It's a lot of commitment for a review, though. And yeah. Anyway, that's what I did today. And Ciotti came. Oh, Abraham says this is a terrible. I don't know what's a terrible idea, but Abraham says something is a terrible idea. Click the wrong message there. I'll tell you this. I don't have the patience or the time to fly hundreds of packs trying to find the perfect motors. I just want to fly. And, I'm going to look at bench test results. I'm going to pick something that is reasonable efficiency, makes a decent amount of thrust, is a price I can afford. I'm going to put it on my quad, and I'm going to get out there and fly. And that's going to be the end of it. Here's the last thing I'll say about this. I would love to see somebody who thinks that they really can tell the difference. Like, I didn't think I was going to be able to tell the difference. Sure enough, I couldn't. It's too subtle. I'd love to see somebody actually do a blind test. I'd love to see Bob Ruge do a blind test. It's tough because if he tries to do a blind test of his own motors versus like some generic 2207 and he doesn't get it right, like a lot of the time, that's going to be really bad for his motors. That's a huge risk of not much payoff. Kind of like the time that fellow who made the bulletproof vests shot himself in the chest with a bulletproof vest to prove that it worked. Like, if you pull it off, you're gonna love your product's gonna do great. But if you fail, big risk. But if anybody in the world could tell the difference, I think it would be Bob, who put so much thought and so much work into the refinement of his motors. But how do you set up a test where you could meaningfully tell the difference between an 1820 kV and a 1910 kV motor, between a 2306.2 and a 240? I don't know. I don't know. Unless you're somebody like an Alex Vanover or maybe a Mr. Steele, I don't think you could tell the difference either. I sure can. Alrighty. Well, that's the opening monologue. A little bit of self-indulgence. Thank you for that. On this, it's because I have a cold. I'm being self-indulgent. But there you go. Let's take Quick Flash says, I've gotten inside info on these motors, and I'd be very surprised if bench tests could show no difference. Yes, so Quick Flash, you are correct that the 25 millimeter motors I have right now, as I said at the beginning of the story, they are different in some way that I don't want to dive into until FPV Cycle's ready to reveal it. They are different than the 25 millimeter motors Chris Rosser tested and found that the performance was basically not worth the wait. R.C. Ritter says, I wonder how different the motors would have to be for you to notice. That's an interesting question, R.C. Ritter. Another interesting video that I would like to do is to fly, and while flying, have somebody turn down the motor scale or the throttle scale and see how low you have to turn it before I can notice that you've turned it down. It'll be interesting. Let's get some super chats. We've got a couple of super chats come in. I haven't even plugged the super chats, so thank you guys for your generosity. Oh, we are missing some super chats. Hang on a second. I can see that we're missing some. While we're at it, let me say thank you to Bags FPV for a $5 super chat. And M. Young Ki Jung for $5 Australian dollars. They ask, when do we get DJI Goggles 2 backwards compatibility or new air units for the DJI Goggle 2? No one knows. No one knows when that's happening. All we know is that DJI has said it's happening. A week or two ago, there was a big, it's coming. The O3 air unit is releasing. There were some YouTube channels that sort of suggested that they're, the wind in the trees said it was coming soon, and then it didn't happen. So who knows? No one knows. There isn't an answer to that question. I mean, someone knows. DJI knows, but nobody here knows. Let me make sure I get the rest of these super chats. John Higston, thank you for $5 Canadian. John says, Joshua, you got to bring out your own line of motors. I'd buy them. I had motors. I had the 2407 motors from Lumineer. I developed them with Lumineer because I wanted a 2407 motor for reasons that are no longer relevant. Before RPM filtering and before dynamic D-term and P-term filtering in Betaflight, way back in, Betaflight 3.2, one of the ways to deal with prop wash oscillation was to have big torquey motors that could be a little more responsive, and the 2407s were very good at that. I later found that with the new developments in Betaflight, 2306, 2207 motors could fly great, and I dropped my 2407 motors because I didn't feel like there was a point to them anymore. I'm not going to bring out motors just for the sake of bringing them out. Timbo Slice, thank you for a $10 super chat. Public service announcement. No hand launching 5-inch quads after a beer. Got my thumb. Let's just say I'm glad I was with my brother, who's a trauma surgeon. Listen, don't hand launch. If you must hand launch, toss launch instead. Toss launching. What does that mean? Develop. FPV giggles. I say to them, I want a 2407 motor about 2300 kV with N42 magnets or something like that. They make a motor. They send me a prototype. I fly it. I go, well, that one's okay, but here's what I didn't like about it. And they make changes until I'm happy, and then we release the motor. Squirrely, thank you for a $5 super chat. I'm going to start asking anything I'm even remotely confused on, no matter how basic. Oh, wait, Squirrely, that was the old super chat. That was this old super chat from a previous stream, so now we are caught up on super chats, except for this one from Benjamin Bailey. Thank you for a $10 super chat, Benjamin Bailey. I'm building a terraplane with Bothab GOM 2207 2500 kV motors on 6S with 85 millimeter 6-blade props. I'm told to put the motors at 100%, not 66%. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, Benjamin. So the relationship that matters is motor KV, battery voltage, and prop size. Okay. Now I think you are hearing 2500 kV on 6S, and you're thinking, whoa, that's too big. But you have 85 millimeter props. So the idea is that the smaller props will need a higher kV to spin faster to make the amount of thrust that it needs to make to fly the quad. But here's what I don't get. I don't understand why you need a 2207 motor to spin 85 millimeter props. That doesn't make any sense to me. I've seen 2207 motors on a 4-inch prop at the smallest. If you're spinning 85 millimeter props, are you sure that's right? I'm not even sure how you would get an 85 millimeter prop onto a 2207 motor. I don't think the shaft size is right. That doesn't make any... So that's the part that doesn't make sense. That you would use a 2500 kV motor on 6S with like a 3-inch prop or something like that, that's still kind of a low. That's actually a low KV, I would think. But Benjamin Bailey, if Shendrone's 85 millimeter, no. How? How do you? Hang on. That doesn't make sense. Hang on. I feel like we are miscommunicating somewhere. They're not 85 millimeter props, are they? Surely not. 85 millimeter. What does that mean? Is that right? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. I'm an idiot. They're 85 millimeter props. I blame the fact that I had COVID like 2 months ago. I was in my head, I was picturing an 85 millimeter tiny whoop. And then I was picturing the little 2-inch props that you use on an 85 millimeter tiny whoop. So I was thinking of an 85 millimeter wheelbase. And like, there's no. 85 millimeter prop is 3.3 inches. Okay, no, yeah, that totally makes sense. That's fine. Completely adds up. All is good. So we're happy. Good. Iceman Sid in the Discord. Got to pay some attention to the Discord. By the way, I still haven't done my little plug here. There we go. Still haven't done my little plug here, you guys. I'm not even going to do it because we're 35 minutes into the stream, so just screw it. But these are my patrons. They're in the Discord, and they're super helpful, and I love them because they make it possible for me to frickin', keep doing this great job. Iceman says, any thoughts on the CADX version of the 2S Whoop you have? I fly DJI only. I'm looking for an indoor winter rig. Yeah, so I have... I don't have an opinion about the flight characteristics of these quads yet. But the CADX one is the second lightest one. I think the CADX 1S Avatar video transmitter is extremely compelling. If you like that style of breakup compared to the HD0 style. Of course, you're going to need to buy the HD0 goggles or the HD0 receiver. You remember when Vanover tested 2306 versus 2207 and flying freestyle couldn't tell the difference? Tim Z asks, I'm looking at the Baby Ape Pro or Tiny Ape. I have 1408 4300 kV Zing motors. Is that okay? Will it be a little overkill? Can they fix the frame? Also not kill whatever flight controller's in it. Well, what I want to do is look at the stock motors that come with it. It comes with an 1103. Oof, and you're going to put a 1408 on there. Yikes. What about the Baby Ape Pro? That's not going to be a 14.0. What motor is on that one? No. Baby Ape 3. Show me the motors. It's not a 1408. It's like an 11 something. 1104, I think. I hate your website. Here we go. 1104. So, wow. 1408, 4300 kV. These are 1104, 40. Well, you got the kV right. That's a pretty big change, Tim Z. So, the larger motor is going to pull more current. The larger stator is going to pull more current. It's going to be a significantly heavier build. It feels to me like that's a pretty big change. Have you found anybody else? Also, putting heavier motors on the end of the arms is going to be more likely to break the arms. Has anybody else done it, Tim Z? Like, I can't say for sure that that's not going to work, but Like, what if we just search for Baby Ape 1408? Has somebody else done it? Oh, shut up. No, I don't want to buy an NFT. Damn it. Baby Ape, Darwin FPV, 1408. Yeah, I don't see anybody else doing it. So I don't think that's a great idea. Wait, what's this? Baby Ape Pro. Where do I see 1408? Where is it? Where is it? Somewhere on this page is 1408. I have no idea where. This is so unhelpful. No, I'm not convinced that's a good idea. I'm going to say no, don't do that. Timbo Slice said I did it and it caught fire. There you go. Please, 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 please. There's no reason to post bloody hand pictures. Don't do it. At the very least, mark it as a spoiler. Please don't do it. Nobody needs to see that shit if they don't want to. The rest of us know not to do that. We don't need to see your bloody hand. Okay. Nog H, thank you for a $5 super chat. I have a DJI Goggles V2 with GepRC Synolog 35P. I need more cheap Express LRS drones. Do I buy a new pair of analog goggles or the BDI adapter? So Nog, you will get better experience out of a pair of dedicated analog goggles. The DJI goggles analog input has a couple of problems. First of all, the latency is slightly higher, like 1 frame higher. It's not an absolute deal breaker, but it's a little annoying to have that extra 16 or something milliseconds of latency. And the other problem is that when you lose signal, it just sometimes it goes blue screen and goes DJI logo instead of going to static or black screen, and it doesn't come back as fast as you would hope. So you'll get better results from a dedicated set of analog goggles, but you'll probably spend more money. The other thing I would say, Nag, is I would strongly advise you, if it is in your budget, to go with the TBS Fusion or the Immersion RC Rapid Fire module. They are the best analog modules you can get today. They're more expensive than the Wildfire, but they give you, and frankly, with analog, you need the best performance you can get. So the Foxeer Wildfire, what's it going for right now? Foxeer Wildfire is going for $90. TBS Fusion, I think it's $120. Well worth that extra $30. Just get the Fusion. Okay, if you can. Immersion RC Rapid Fire is more expensive. $160. Is that right? Sheesh. That's a big chunk. The Rapid Fire needs to be cheaper than that. Is that really what it's selling for? It's not that much better than the Fusion. I'm not even sure it's any better than the Fusion, to be honest with you. Sorry, Immersion RC. It needs to be closer to 120 in order to compete with the Fusion. Okay. Sunshine suggests this motor for your Baby Ape. If you're trying to upgrade the Baby Ape, Sunshine suggests this. What is this? The 1202.5 5600 kV. Interesting. It's a little bigger motor. Higher kV too. Ken Heron, good to see you here, my friend. Very nice to... Oh, you guys can't see a damn thing that I'm doing. Did you see this? This is the motor you suggested. Okay, sorry about that. Ken Heron, good to see you, my friend. Black Jungle 308, thank you for 20 Brazilian reais. Given that I can limit throttle input on Betaflight as an amateur that won't notice the 10% efficiency loss from doing that, is there any reason to not? always buy the highest kV motor I can find for all cases. Black Jungle. So here is an argument that some people make. In fact, I think Aaron Ciotti does this. Ciotti's argument is that you should always buy a higher kV motor than you really need. For example, if you're running on 6S, buy 2100, 2300, 2400 kV. And then use a throttle or a motor output limit or a throttle limit to bring that down. You probably need to use a motor output limit if you're going with high kV motors. So run on 6S, run a 2300, 2400 kV motor, and then use a 66% motor output limit to bring it down to the correct RPM range for a 5-inch prop. But what Ciotti has said is that if you find yourself in a situation where you need just that little bit more punch, you've essentially got the ability to unleash the beast. By turning the motor output limit up, you can get more power. That is 100% true. However, the downside is that, in my opinion, running high kV motors makes it more likely that you're going to blow the ESC. Now, I'm going to tell you some electrical stuff about why I think that's true, and I don't have evidence to back this up, so I want to be honest about that fact. The way that motors work is that you've got battery voltage running through the FETs, the MOSFETs in the ESC, and the MOSFETs switch the battery voltage on and off very, very quickly using pulse width modulated signals. The voltage coming through the FETs is basically either full battery voltage or 0 volts. And of course, there is a small rising and trailing edge where it goes up and down, right? So there's a very short period of time where it is moving between those two values, but in general, it is full battery output or 0 volts. Now, when you apply a motor output limit, the length of the full voltage pulses gets shorter. And the average voltage that is that the motor sees goes down. And the fact that the motor has inductive characteristics means that the average voltage it's not just like a digital average, but in fact the inductance characteristics of it mean that there's literally some reduction in the voltage that's measured. But I still don't think it's the same as if you had a lower kV motor, okay? You're still exposing the motor to that high voltage. And even though the average voltage is lower, like the peak voltage is higher, and it feels to me like these high kV motors are more likely to blow your ESC. That's what I would say. So I would say buy the correct kV for your application. It's not about efficiency. It's about just keeping your whole quad electrically sort of happy. But you can do it. I just think tuning gets more complicated and the chances of frying the ESC goes up. Ken Herron, thank you for a $10 super chat. Are we learning anything today? Yes, sir. I hope so. We're learning that if you go camping in freezing weather, then you come home with a cold. That's what I learned. Okay. Question here from Felix Torres. Felix Torres asks, what's the difference between VBAT, BEC, 9 volt, etc.? When do I use one over the other? Felix Torres, the number one thing that needs to happen when thinking about voltage is that the voltage you give to a given device needs to be within its input voltage range. So if we look at let's look at this video transmitter. This video transmitter is the Rush Tank Solo. When we look at this, we can find a specification. Hey, Drone Mesh. What's he been up to? When did he post? You posted lately, Drone Mesh? Ooh, ooh, that's not a good look. 1 year ago, I will edit your FPV videos on Fiverr. Hasn't posted since. He must have got super successful on Fiverr. It's always a wonder when people drop off. Where did they go? What are they doing? They just disappear. You know, they say, someday will be the last time you pick up your child. You know, you never know when that day will be. They'll get to be too big and you won't pick them up anymore. And be like, oh, so cherish every moment. Someday will be the last YouTube video that every YouTuber ever posts. When will it be? I don't know. Going back here to the question about voltage. If we go down 7 to 36 volt input, right? It says right there. That's what, it's non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. 7 to 36 volts input. So, now, can you run that off of battery voltage? Well, what is your battery voltage? If your battery is a 1S battery, that's going to be at most 4.2 volts and at least about 3.0 volts. Is that voltage range within the 7 to 36 volts that this video transmitter requires? No, it's not. So that won't work. Now, the idea of a 7 to 36 volt video transmitter is that it will run off of basically a 2S battery up to a 6S battery without needing any voltage regulator. Oof, that's true. RIP Project Blue Falcon. Literally RIP. He was a good dude. What's his last video? What was his last video? He died in a motorcycle accident 5 years ago. Videos coming soon. Promise. Oh, ouch. That sucks. And when somebody's not posting and then they do a videos coming soon. Promise. And then videos don't come. He started vlogging. He used to make great content. And then his last video was a liftoff simulator review. There you go. 93K views. That's a lot of freaking views. Okay, going back to the question about voltage. So let's say we have a video transmitter like the TBS Unify Race. What's the input voltage for this? Let's look. 2 to 6S. Crap, that's not what I wanted. Sorry, hang on. What about the TBS Unified Nano? What's the input voltage for this? 4.5 volts to 5 volts only. So, if you try to run this off of VBAT, it will fry. Or it will be underpowered. A 1S battery will not have a high enough voltage. A 2S battery and up will fry it because it will be more than 5 volts. Okay? So you would need to run this off a 5-volt regulator. That would be basically your only choice. So in essence, what you need to do is you need to look at the voltage range, the input voltage range for your device, and then you need to give it the correct voltage that it wants. Now, here's where things get interesting. Sometimes you have a device like the TBS Unify HV, like the Rush Tank Solo, like the Caddx Vista, that can take anywhere from, let's say, 7 volts up to 26 volts. And you've got a 9-volt regulator on your flight controller. So in this case, you could use battery voltage, or you could use that 9-volt regulator. Which one should you use? If you use battery voltage, there will be more electrical noise getting to the device, and sometimes that makes it perform worse. If you use the voltage regulator, if the voltage regulator is undersized, it could brown out and the device could reboot or stop working properly. So as long as the voltage regulator is correctly sized for the amount of power that your device will draw, it's usually better to use a voltage regulator. But with certain high-powered devices, sometimes the voltage regulators on your flight controller can't handle them, and it's better to run it off of VBAT. So hopefully that's some helpful information on Mints. Some helpful information. Who left that question? Oh, it wasn't a super chat. It was in the regular chat. Steadfast RC in the Discord asks, I'm wondering what approach to take when setting up my rates on different quads. I use the same rates on all my quads. Yes, you 100% should have the same rates on all your quads. Okay? Now, personally, I actually have two sets of rates. I use one set of rates for freestyle and one set of rates for racing and cinematic. They're lower rates. But you absolutely need consistency. You can't just use whatever rates come on them and cross your fingers. Your muscle memory will be completely screwed up. Okay? If you have a quad you like the feel of, Steadfast RC, yeah, you could do that. I have a video about find your perfect rates that gives an approach to finding your perfect rates. It's not the only approach, but it is an approach. You could try that. Zoe FPV wants to know what's the difference between the TrueRC X Air and the X2 Air. Would it be worth the extra bulk? Let's make sure we're thinking about the same antenna. The X2 Air is this the single? It's the single output. Yeah. Okay, so the X2 Air basically is like an X Air, but it has a narrower vertical beam width. Okay? So let's just look up the X Air to be sure. The X Air, let's find the Mark II though. Oh, that's the DJI one. Hold on, that's not what I want. This is the one I want. So here's the X Air Mark II, which is a single antenna. The X2 Air is a dual antenna stacked. And the effect of this is that the 120 degrees, 68 degrees, 150 degrees, 62 degrees. Interesting. I would have thought it would be... Wait, shut up. Why would you spec a different... What is this then? Of course the 3dB beam width is the beam width. In what crazy world? Oh, okay. Here, we're at least giving you the definition. That's dumb. It's not dumb. It's annoying, though. The 3dB beam width is the standard way that antenna beam is measured. There is a reason for doing this, what they call the flight beam. It's not really... Well, anyway, so be that as it may. We got 74 and 34 for the X2, and 68. You're not going to give me the vertical? God dang it. God dang it to heck. Ugh. Where's the V2? We got to find it. Stupid. 5.8 gigahertz. Oh, shut up. What a dumb cat. No, wrong. Wrong. Is it under short range? Those are omnis. Why wouldn't you just say omnis? Dumbass. Oh, I'm in a sour mood today. Sorry. It's because I have a cold. X-Air Mark II. Hallelujah. Can I have the specs, please? Can I know the specs? Beam width, 68 degrees. Well, is that the horizontal or the vertical beam width, you doofus? Neither, both, I have no idea. Okay. Well, anyway. How can we try to come out of this in a helpful way? The 74, 34, 68. the X2 will have two stacked antennas which squashes the vertical beam, giving you more gain at the expense of less vertical beam width. The X-Air will have essentially a conical beam with roughly even vertical and horizontal beam width. Okay? I see. Yeah, Marcel says it's square. Well, still, you need to put vertical and horizontal. That's how you do it. That's how antennas are. So we have a 68 degree by 68 degree beam width for the single, and we have a 74 by 34. So approximately half the vertical beam width, which is what I would roughly expect when you stack two antennas. Half the vertical beam width with a slightly wider horizontal beam, but not that much difference. And we go to 13 dB of gain from about 10 dBi of gain. So an additional 3 dB of gain gives you about 1.4 times the coverage, 1.4 times the range. So basically, to boil it down, about 1.4 times the range for the double antenna at the expense of roughly half the vertical beam width. There you go. And if you mount it sideways, then it's half the horizontal beam width. It's up to you. Hope that was worth it. That took a long time to get there. I'm sorry, I didn't want to talk shit about the antennas without looking at the actual specs. And then when I started trying to look at the specs were annoying and seemed incomplete. Breed82, thank you for a $5 super chat. I'm building a T-Motor F7 and I can't get Express LRS EP2 to power on. Tried two 5-volt pads with the battery plugged in. Was working days ago on another build. So listen, man, this is where it's time to get out your multimeter. Get out your multimeter. Measure the 5-volt pads. Do you have 5 volts output? No? Desolder everything from the flight controller. Do you have 5 volts output? Yes? One of the things you desoldered has a short circuit in it. If you desolder everything from the flight controller and you still don't have 5 volts output, your 5-volt regulator is probably dead. So, that's how you troubleshoot that. Unmanned Sky, thank you for a $5 super chat. I'm using a T-Motor 2203.5 2850 kV on 6S with an iFlight Green Hornet 3.5 inch. It flies crappy in tight spaces. Throttle limit. Unmanned Sky, the iFlight Green Hornet with 3.5. I mean, those Cinewhoops don't fly great, especially that style of Cinewhoop with the larger ducts and especially in tight spaces and proximity obstacles. They have a lot of problems with getting sucked into the obstacles. I'm not sure that it's your motor KV that's the problem. If you think you're having trouble controlling the throttle, a throttle limit could do it, could help, but it may just be a characteristic of how that quad flies. Cheech FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. Crunchy peanut butter or creamy? Well, Cheech, you super chatted me $5, so I want to respect your donation and answer your question. I can't help but feel like this is one of those internet memes that I don't get and that my answer will be interpreted in a way that I'm unaware of. Nevertheless, I don't eat peanut butter very often, to be honest with you. I don't, I like a good peanut butter sandwich, don't get me wrong, but frankly, I don't eat, I'm more likely to eat like peanut butter on a Ritz cracker. And that, I think most of the things that I would want, I'm most likely to eat a little peanut butter in a little pad thai or something. Put a little peanut butter in there to get that peanut flavor in when you can't be bothered to crush up actual peanuts. Most of the things that I would eat peanut butter in would be better with creamy peanut butter. So that's your answer. Delta Foxtrot, 6949. Thank you for a $5 super chat. No question, just a donation. So thank you for that. Ethan Barber Photography. Thank you for a $2. Well, let me check. Delta Foxtrot. Did you ask a question It says message retracted. Nope, you didn't. Okay, just a donation. Cool. Ethan Barber Photography, thank you for a $2 super chat. How do I get Fat Shark Scout HDs? They're not in stock anywhere. Ethan Barber, do you mean the HD Zero Scout goggles? I don't think they're made anymore. Fat Shark and HD Zero have gone their separate ways. They're not... Mommy and Daddy got a divorce, I'm sorry to tell you. While you were at summer camp, Mommy and Daddy got a divorce. They're not together anymore. Daddy has a new girlfriend. Her name is Walksnail. And, you know... Mommy HD Zero still loves you very much, but she and Daddy just don't get along. You carry that analogy as far as you like. Fat Shark Scout HD. I'm like, let's do this. Let's go to my favorite way to search for products. Searchfpv.com. Searchfpv.com is a multi-store FPV search website. Now, I was told by Eirik Toft, the developer, that he has made the search much faster. That the search happens in parallel now, and it takes 5 or 10 seconds to search all the stores. So let's put this to the test. We're going to select all the stores, and we're going to put in Scout HD, and we're going to search. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, that was fast. That was fast. That was fast. That was not bad. Now we searched for Scout HD, and the website just shows you what the store returns. So some of the search results are not what we're looking for, but Dominator HD, is that what you're looking for? Scout HD at Newbie Drone, out of stock. Yeah, I think the answer is no. Fat Shark Scout, that's the analog goggle. That's not what we want. No. So the next place I go, if I'm looking for a used product, I go to fpvexchange.com. Now, I'm not affiliated with this store, but it's just or this website. It's just a super useful website. And so I'm going to search for Scout HD, and I'm going to see if somebody... HD0 Scout HD goggle. Yeah, sure. Is somebody selling those? Seller Banggood. No, that's not in stock. That's a lie. That's not in stock. I don't believe it. Hello. That's super annoying. If I click, why not? I just want to buy one. Buy. Can I buy it? Scout HD. Is it in stock? I'm so skeptical. Arrival notice. No, it's not in stock. F you. Just try something else. Scout HD. Hello? Is the website working? Okay, now it's barfing because I'm not sure why, but it's not. HD0 Scout HD goggle. Can I just do a search? Search. Okay, here we go. So I got 2 sellers here selling Scout HD. Oh, one is Rotor Riot, it's out, and one is Banggood. Nope. Get FPV. That's not in stock. I think you're out of luck, man. I'm hoping to find a used one that someone is selling. No sellers. Sort by. Sellers most. No. Sellers most. I don't think anybody has them. I can't even find a used one. I think you're out of luck. I think you're out of luck. That's going to be a no. Oh, crap. I just closed the chat window. I just lost all my super chats. Damn it. Did I lose all my super chats? F you. Just lost all my super chats. FPV Gizmo says, my DJI goggles read the goggle battery voltage 0.6 volts lower than the actual voltage. Can it be fixed? No, FPV Gizmo, there is no way to calibrate the DJI goggle supply voltage. Can't be done, as far as I know. Sorry. You're just out of luck there. Now I got to look for the rest of the super chats. Hold on. What product, MacTac asks, what product do you think FPV needs that FPV doesn't have? More easy to build solderless builds like the Rotor Riot solderless builds. Rizzo Fox asks, why is Pyrodrone not included in the search? Rizzo, Pyrodrone is, we think that Pyro's absence from the search is not what's best for the people using the site. Pyro is an incredibly important store. I think Pyro is, I wager Pyro is one of the three largest, certainly the three largest USA-based vendors. The other two probably being Get FPV and Race Day Quads, I would guess. I don't know what order those come in, but I would absolutely guess that they're the three biggest in the USA. I don't know about the world. I don't know where Banggood falls, but it's a different vibe when you're going worldwide. Of the stores I shop at, my three top go-tos are Pyro, Race Day Quads, and Get FPV in no particular order. So Pyro was invited to be a part of it, and so far has not decided that they want to. That is a decision that we 100% respect. It isn't free to be included on the store, on the Search FPV website. Like, just, I mean, we have disclosures about that. In order to get included, what we ask is that the store set up an affiliate program and they pay us an affiliate percent. Similar to how, your favorite YouTubers, including me, will be like, hey, use my affiliate links. Basically, this website is supported by affiliate links. So between 2% and 5% is a typical affiliate commission for a typical affiliate program in the FPV space. And without revealing any specifics of any specific store, which would of course be inappropriate, what we ask is that the stores set up an affiliate program and they give us an affiliate. And Pyrodrone, I have a Pyrodrone affiliate code that I use. And as far as I can tell, it's beneficial for both me and for Pyrodrone. I assume it's beneficial because otherwise they would say, look, we don't want you to be an affiliate anymore. And they would pull the affiliate code. And then, I would say I respect that and we'd go our separate ways. They haven't done that. I didn't think it was appropriate to use my affiliate code on the Search FPV site because my affiliate code is based on me recommending and reviewing a product, and that has a different kind of weight than if it's just like, I don't know, here's a search result. So we asked Pyrodrone if they wanted to be included. We said, I don't think it's appropriate to use my affiliate code for this. I don't run this website anyway. It's run by Eric Toft. I support it. I participate in it, but he mostly does all the work, and I basically promote it. And Pyro chose not to do that. One could infer that if a store said they didn't want to be involved, that they think that the amount of money they would spend on affiliate sales is not worth the value they would get in increased sales. That's a decision that every store has to make. They are not the only store we've reached out to who has said, no, thank you, we don't want to do that. Since you asked about Pyro and this has come up before, we're talking about them, but I'm not going to just volunteer other names of stores that have declined, but they're not the only one. And I only say all of this because I don't want anybody to think that I'm intentionally snubbing Pyrodrone by not including them. Nothing could be farther from the truth. If you look at my website, fpvknowitall.com, Pyro is all over that website. And personally, I shop at Pyro. I find that a lot of the time, for the product I'm looking for, they're one of the only stores that has it in stock. They do a really good job of stocking weird niche items, whereas other stores seem to kind of focus down more on more mainstream items. But ultimately, they have to decide they want to be a part of it. And they haven't. So, going back to the Super Chats. Thank you, B-Man FPV, for a $5 super chat. Best character in a sci-fi franchise. Which one did you grow up watching more? Star Wars, Star Trek, TNG. B-Man, I grew up watching TNG when I was a kid. I went on to watch Deep Space Nine. I've never been a huge Star Trek fan. You know, when I was a kid, I had... backwards. Star Wars fan. I've never been a huge Star Wars fan. Not that I mean, obviously, everybody likes Star Wars, right? Nobody, hates Star Wars, do they? When I was a kid, I had Star Wars figurines. I watched Star Wars. I've seen the Star Wars movies. Star Wars just never grabbed me in the same way that Star Trek did. Star Trek always felt a little more grounded in a way that Star Wars doesn't. Star Wars is a little more fantasy. As far as best character in a sci-fi franchise, sheesh. Sci-fi franchise. I mean, that alone is... I don't know, man. Best character in a sci-fi franchise. There are so many sci-fi franchises. I'm not sure I could pick. I mean, if you're gonna pick Star Trek, I'm gonna take Picard over Kirk any day, in terms of just being a better person, first of all. And all due respect to Shatner, but I think, frickin', I had COVID 3 months ago, so my memory's a little shot. Fucking Patrick Stewart, thank you. I was just about to look it up. Patrick Stewart is as far as acting goes, I think Patrick Stewart gives Shatner more than a run for his money. Any rumors on the Session 6, asks Zipper Lips. Thank you for a $5 super chat. Any rumors on the Session 6? Nope. Sorry. Think about Patrick Stewart in whatever that episode is where he's kidnapped by the Borg and, there are 4 lights or whatever. That was a chewy piece of acting for a television series, That was a chewy piece of acting and writing. And think about how much Shatner would have hammed that up. And I love Shatner. And I love his hamminess. But you take a Shakespearean, a classically trained Shakespearean actor, and you cast him as Picard, and he's just going to do a hell of a job, He was kidnapped. Oh, I'm so sorry. He was kidnapped by the Cardassians, not the Borg. I'm sorry. I'm confusing it with the one where he got captured by the Borg and turned into Locutus. Oh, my goodness. I don't know. Yeah. Patrick Stewart. Yeah. There you go. I mean, Shatner was asked to do different things and was in a different time period, Okay. Well, it was a super chat. I have to answer the super chats. What am I going to do? Delta Foxtrot, thank you for a $10 super chat. I bought a long-range antenna for my iFlight, and the SMA connector is male, and the one on the quad is male. Am I able to take out the male prongs? Will it work? No. No, it will not work. Do not do that. Do not do that. You will break it. You bought the wrong antenna. That's all. Hang on. You could buy an adapter. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. It's not male versus female. It's SMA versus RPSMA. You just bought the wrong one. So you bought an SMA antenna, and you have an RPSMA video transmitter, and they won't go together. You either need an SMA to RPSMA adapter, or you need to buy a different antenna. So there you go. Okay. Do not just pull that out. It will not work correctly. It doesn't work like that. One IFPV says, isn't there a standard that says antennas should be RPSMA versus SMA? One IFPV, there isn't a universal standard for that. A lot of people feel that the video transmitter should be that RPSMA is better because it puts the pin on the video transmitter and the receptacle on the antenna. And the reason that's better is that when the RPSMA connector wears out, this connector here is kind of spring-loaded, if you will. And when the RPSMA connector wears out, oftentimes it's this little bit here that wears out, or this little bit here. And the idea is that if you put the pin on the video transmitter, then eventually the antenna will wear out and you can replace the antenna. But if you put SMA connectors, then the video transmitter has the receptacle, and when it wears out, you have to replace the video transmitter, which is more expensive. So a lot of people feel that RPSMA is superior for that reason. I think RPSMA is superior because if you have an SMA video transmitter and you buy an RPSMA antenna by accident, they will screw together. And you'll be missing the pin and you will get terrible, terrible range. But they'll screw together and you won't know. RPSMA, you cannot accidentally screw an SMA antenna on because they both have a pin and it won't work. Brian Mayland says, for Express LRS, we try to get all transmitters to be RPSMA because all 2.4 gig stuff should be RPSMA as the standard. SMA for 5.8 gigahertz. Captain Bry, I respect your knowledge and I respect your contribution, but I would ask, where is that standard defined? Who made that standard up? I have never heard of that before, that 2.4 gig is RP and SMA and 5.8 is SMA. There's no technical reason why the SMA connector is more suited for 2.4 or 5.8. They can both do both. And SMA was the standard connector. And then the FCC said that for Part 15 certification, you have to have a non-standard connector. And so the story I've always been told, and which I believe is true until somebody tells me different, is that the point of RPSMA was to create a quote-unquote non-standard connector for FCC Part 15 certification. Right. Captain Bry says Wi-Fi manufacturers used it to skirt the FCC's regulation. They weren't skirting the regulation. They were complying with it. Okay? So like people always say, oh, you're skirting the law. If the law says I can have window tint up to whatever, 5% on my windows, and my window tint is 4% or 5%, I'm not skirting the law, I'm complying with it. And in this case, the FCC said that for Part 15 certification, you have to have a non-standard antenna connector that to make it harder for people to change the antennas. And RPSMA was created with compliance with that regulation in mind. And that's why Wi-Fi devices with removable antennas come with RPSMA. Now, it turns out that now that we have the internet, RPSMA is also widely available. And who knows if they think that that's still true. But the only reason that Part 15 devices usually come with RPSMA is to comply with that FCC guideline. However, I don't know if the FCC still thinks that RPSMA is not widely available. I mean, it's pretty widely available. But as far as 5.8 or 2.4, as long as it's Part 15 certified, my understanding is that it should be RPSMA or some other non-standard, not widely available connector. Anybody shipping a Part 15 device with an SMA, well, nobody should be able to ship a Part 15 device with an SMA connector. That's a fact. And the FCC would not certify a Part 15 device with an SMA connector unless their interpretation of the law has changed in a way that I don't know about. Now, what I don't know is whether the FCC has cottoned on to the fact that RPSMA is also widely available, and they have said that Part 15 devices must have, like, directly connected. I think that they changed the interpretation a little while back, and they said that Part 15 devices must have, like, a tamper-resistant antenna. And that's why TBS started gluing their antennas on. I would... Then again... Well... Interesting. The DJI Goggles 2 have removable antennas that are RPSMA, but the new DJI goggles have non-removable antennas. I think I remember that the FCC changed their interpretation because they got tired of people having removable antennas with these quote-unquote non-standard connectors that aren't actually non-standard. Yeah, the Crossfire module now has a little plastic shroud that you have to take the screws out to unplug it. Ooh, there you go. Tamper resistant. The definition of tamper resistant is also extremely flexible, but there you go. Cameron Robichaux, thank you for a $10 super chat. Nothing to say, just support. Coelho FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Any juicy tidbits on Betaflight 4.4? Betaflight 4.4, it's supposed to be in release candidate soon, isn't it? Come on, Betaflight. Looking forward to that Express LRS 3.0 integration. What's coming in Betaflight 4.4? See if we can find some juicy tidbits. Betaflight 4.4 going to have much better GPS rescue, including landing. Automatically disarm on touching down, impact detection. A much better GPS rescue is coming. That's exciting. Let's see. What else? Can I see nightly? I guess they don't have anything published about 4.4 yet. Just people talking about the return to home. That's apparently the big... Oh, here we go. UAV Tech has a post. Quick setup guides on Patreon. Well, I'm not going to show his Patreon content, even though I am a patron of his. I'm not going to... Well, maybe I'll just real quick take a look at it. Hold on. Let me make sure I look at what I'm going to show before I show it. If there's some top secret thing, I don't want to share it with the world if it's supposed to be for his patrons only. But if there's a little bit of a teaser for his Patreon, that's useful. Ooh, oh, that's exciting. Cloud build configurator. What's that? I don't actually know what that is. Huh. Well, I guess you better go be a patron of UAV Techs to find out. Oh, excuse me for not muting those terrible, disgusting noises. He said sarcastically. Well, why not just use iNav? Well, because... Okay, why not just use iNav? 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 Well, maybe you want to do some resource remapping on your flight controller because you've got something going on that you need to do resource remapping. iNav doesn't support resource remapping. Oops. Etc. iNav doesn't fly as good as Betaflight on some quads. Why not just use Archicopter? Some people want to use Betaflight. There you go. Coelho FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. Great vid on GoPro setup for motion blur. Thank you. Thank you, Coelho FPV. I was proud of that one. I'm glad it's been fairly successful. Arctic, thank you for a $5 super chat. Would you recommend staying with analog if you're coming back to FPV? Or would you say go digital as soon as you can? Arctic, I think the main reason that people stay away from digital is the money. If you have the budget to get a digital system, I think most people who go with a digital system stick with it. Not everybody. Not everybody. There definitely are people who try out DJI or Walksnail or HD0 and then decide it's not for them and go back. I'm not trying to suggest, but I think the majority of people who try it are happy with it and they slowly move away from analog. Kenny Kobe wants to know why I'm in such a bad mood. Did you hear it? I have a cold. I'm kind of feel like shit. I'm kind of grumpy. It's okay. Let's see here. Let's check these poll results. Your mom. Why not just... So here's the answer to the question. Why not just use iNav? Your mom. 61%. There we go. 661 FPV. There's stuff to take your question seriously. There's stuff that iNav doesn't do. Doesn't do well. iNav is very, very good at autonomous flight. Way better than Betaflight. But sometimes what you want is an acro platform with a half-decent return to home at the end. And Betaflight, that's what Betaflight is. So. Black Jungle 308, thank you for 5 Brazilian reais. I skipped my RF classes. Is there a hardware way to make multiple antennas discharge in the same waveguide? Black Jungle, it sounds like you're talking about antenna design. I mean, yes, you design an antenna with the elements in the right orientation to create the transmission pattern that you want. But doing that is extremely complicated and challenging. Sunshine, thank you for a $5 super chat. Replacing 2.4 gigahertz spectrum radio antenna, what dB is realistic before the seller's full of it and you should consider a powered antenna? Here's the thing, Sunshine. Going to a higher gain antenna, you can't get something for nothing, okay? As you go to a higher gain antenna, it focuses the beam, okay? So, a 2 dB antenna might have a big, wide beam. A 5 dB antenna has a little bit of a squished beam. A 7 dB antenna has an even more squished beam, until eventually you have a super high gain antenna that has a narrow little thin disc of a beam, okay? Now, those super high gain antennas are okay as long as your receiver is only in one place. As long as it is always within the beam. But with an aircraft, if you think about it, if we've got an antenna, let's say we've got an antenna, okay? And it's got a narrow little thin disc of a beam, okay? If that antenna tilts the wrong way, now the beam is going up in the air and it's not hitting my aircraft anymore and I fail safe. So for controller antennas, you usually just want 2 to maybe 5 dB. Because the higher the gain, the more the dead spot at the end of the antenna is going to be. With a 2 dB antenna, you almost can't tell that when the antenna is orientated one way versus the other, you almost can't tell There's almost no discernible null in the real world. But when you go with a higher gain antenna, then if you've got the antenna pointed like this and you're flying directly above yourself, maybe you get a little bit of a reduction in range. If you've got it turned sideways and you're flying off to the side, maybe you get a big reduction in range because you might be further out. So I wouldn't go with a very, very high gain controller antenna. Now you're asking, Sunshine, what about a powered antenna? So you mean an amplifier. When you have an amplifier, you are literally putting more energy out the antenna. And at that point, you do get just more range, period. You just need something to power the amplifier. Orientated. Yeah, that's a word. Orientated. Orientated. That's definitely a word. Adventure FPV, thanks for a $10 super chat. I just give you a shout out in my parody Netflix documentary. It's really funny. You should check it out. Well, what is it called, Adventure FPV? Bachrider FPV Park makes us Aussies jealous, says Raven187. What's the latest on the Bachrider FPV Park? Thank you for $2 Australian, Raven. What's the latest? What's he up to? I still haven't donated. I should donate to Bachrider. Black Jungle, do not experiment with that two-way combiner. You will not get the results that you think you're going to get. If you're going to don't do that. Don't do that. First of all, Black Jungle. And remember, Black Jungle is the guy who made the acrylic quadcopter. So Black Jungle has a long history of doing things that are supposed to not work. Maybe it'll work. First of all, Black Jungle, look at the maximum rating of this combiner. It's 1,000 megahertz. Okay? That's not for you. You need 5.8 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz. The other thing is, I bet that this is a 75 ohm coax for coax for cable TV. I bet that this is 75 ohm. Not 50 ohm. Oh, I'm wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. I take it back. Excuse me. Does it have impedance matching? Does it have impedance matching? That would be cool. This is for television antennas, though. Maybe it has impedance matching. That would be interesting. Or is it 50 ohms? Oh, no. It's 50 ohms impedance for two 75 ohm antennas, isn't it? Oh, he knows about impedance matching. Ah, okay. If he knows about impedance matching, maybe he's smarter than I gave him credit for. Definitely need to do the impedance matching. Okay. As usual, he's smarter than I gave him credit for. Yeti, thank you for $3 Australian. Fenton Crea says, how I can't find the XR Mark II in my country. Is the Crosshair Extreme a good alternative? The Crosshair Extreme is a good antenna. You may be able to find... In fact, the Crosshair Extreme is... What's the difference? They're almost the same, aren't they? Oh, that's the Video Aerial Systems, isn't it? I believe that the Vaz Crosshair Extreme... I won't say that. I think that this is a similar antenna in design to the X-Air. I think that these are both a similar design of antenna. I am not sure enough to bet my life on it, but I think these are very similar antennas and would perform similarly. So, yeah. Hey, Siati is home. Siati, man, thank you. Siati drove 3 hours up here, flew with me for 2 or 3 hours. I took him out to get tacos. Figured it was the least I could do. And then he drove 3 hours home. And I got to say, I wouldn't do that for him. I'd drive home the next day, and I'd skip out on the live stream, but not Siati. I have to leave him a big super chat today. I shouldn't leave him a big super chat. I should just PayPal him because YouTube takes like 30% of the super chats. Hey, we got our first spammer. Delete, hide from channel. Super Deluxe wants to know. Hey, Super Deluxe, your Super Deluxe shirt is all worn out. Do you want me to keep using it? I need a new shirt, Super Deluxe. This is how I shop for clothes. I shout. This is how I get my whole life done. I just shout at people on live streams. Alrighty. It's comfy, but the design is falling off. Looks pretty ratty. I just don't want to. I don't want to rep you, you know, in a negative way. Thank you, Gregory Jackson, for a $10 super chat. Thanks for all the help you give us newbies and experienced folks. Just got back into FPV. I picked the DJI V2 goggles after waiting forever for the prices to drop. Can't wait to fly. Are the iFlight crystals still worth it? Asks Leo Ponce. Yes, the iFlight crystal are still great. They're great. I still love them. Do I have a cold? Yes, Cool Cat, I have a cold. I went camping. It was very cold. I spent a lot of time in the rain and the cold weather. I had a great time. Now I have a cold. What are you going to do? Finton asks, is the walk snail video receiver a good idea for analog goggles? How far will it go and how much latency? No one knows, Finton. No one knows because no one's tested it yet. I hope they send me one so I can test it when it's finally available. That'll be amazing. Jean-Claude says, I pulled the trigger on the Avatar goggles with the 2 VTX Special on Caddx. I'm sure I'll need to upgrade the antennas. Any suggestions? The X-Air Mark II are great. There's a version for Walksnail and DJI. So I think this is the one. Except you also, if I remember right, you also need an SMA to RPSMA adapter. I think this is the one that Sean Morrison runs. And it's pretty good. Where did you get the synthwave drone shirt you were wearing in an old video? You're gonna have to. It's not this one, is it? No, it's not this one. Oof. I think that's a Rotor Riot shirt, but geez. Some of their designs go out of stock. I think it's a Rotor Riot shirt. Is that it? Is that all of them? Oh, yeah, that's all of them. Well, it may not be available anymore. I'm sorry to say. There you go. What's with all the batteries in the background? I was flying today with Siati. So those are the batteries we were using. Alrighty. 9:45. Is that it? We got any more questions? I think I'm going to wrap up because I'm sick and I'm tired and Why no JB merch? There is JB merch. There's JB merch below every one of my videos. Why isn't there any JB merch? Joshua Bardwell. Joshua Bardwell. Here we go to my channel. Click a video. Click a video. Woo, look right here. JB merch. Ta-da. JB merch. You're welcome. I think I'm going to wrap up. Rather than finish the next 15 minutes, Ciati is going to start streaming. AKA, I still have a Discord server. You can get access by joining my Patreon. J Barnes FPV, thanks for a $10 super chat. I just got the RC Wasp and update firmware to support it. I undid my root, like you said, then rerouted it. Now, when I try to install WTFOS, it says could not connect to device. Make sure nothing's running in the background. Make sure no other tabs are open. And then you should be able to reroute it. I did. I would say join the Discord server, the WTFOS Discord server, if you're not sure. Cotiz, I do have ad block. That was an incognito window. That's why there was an ad. I actually am a member of YouTube Premium, so that's why I don't see ads. Tom Kayak, thank you for a $10 super chat. My seasonal camping cold was only 2 days, but it was 70 plus in North Carolina the night you hit the 20s. Sunday was cold. Yeah, Sunday was cold. Cotis says I use ad block so I don't see merch. I mean, hey, I can't help you there, buddy. You don't see the merch shelf and you ask, why don't you have any merch? You're missing out. There you go. That's on you. Jay Barnes, I had that same problem once recently where after I rooted, it wouldn't connect to install WTFOS. I don't know what the problem was. I just tried to redo the root and then it worked. Okay, folks, I'm going to wrap up 10 minutes early just because I'm sick and it's my prerogative. Ciati, I hope you have a great stream. And yes, Clara Colden, the Mobula 7 ELRS should bind to a 251 module. Yes, it should. It's an SBI receiver. It will bind to 2.5. That's going to do it for the stream, folks. I will... Abraham, thank you. I'm aware that cold weather does not cause colds, but running around in freezing weather and wet rain does suppress your immune system so that exposure is more likely to cause an illness. Tell me that's not true. Aber's a doctor. So if he says it's not true, then I believe him. Ciati's going to pick up. Happy flying, you guys. I'm going to finish up. Bye, everybody.